Hello and a very warm welcome to the Sacred Womb podcast, where we talk about all things to do with befriending our menstrual cycle, deeply healing both our feminine and masculine aspects, and how we can indeed utilise our cyclical nature as a natural spiritual pathway that's encoded within our bodies. I'm your host, Melanie Swan, and you can also go to thesacredwomb.com for more information and loads of fantastic free resources. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Sacred Womb podcast. How are you doing today? How's your womb? How's your cycle? How are you feeling generally in this change of season? So I'd love to hear from you. There are now over 1,000 of you in the Sacred Womb private Facebook group where I do live monthly Q&A sessions, and it's just great. It's just absolutely fantastic that more and more of you are joining, supporting each other and coming forward with your honesty, your questions, your vulnerability and your support. That's why I created that space. It was about 8 years ago, actually, I created that group, and it's built nice and slowly and steadily, and it's turned into a really supportive, rich space. So if you're not already a member, do come and join us. The link is in the show notes. So today, ladies, I have something pretty funky for you. Holly Grigg-Spall is back on the podcast with us. And if you listen to episode 43, you'll know that last time I talked to Holly about her book, how we got hooked on hormonal birth control. And we talked about all the side effects of the pill and other hormonal birth control options and, coming off it and the implications and societal implications. And however, what else do we do? What else is available naturally that's actually reliable? So I recorded this podcast back in early December, and I was intrigued about Daysy because I was thinking of getting one but wasn't sure and didn't really have the background and the information. But after speaking to Holly on the podcast, I actually got one, and I've been using it for 3.5 months now, and it's just fantastic. So I've been sitting on this podcast recording for a few months because I wanted to try it before I released the main podcast recording to you, so that you've got my take on it. And I didn't want to recommend something that's so important and so personal without having used it myself first. But it's absolutely fantastic. I use it. I take my temperature every morning before I get out of bed, and it gives me a green light if I'm good to go and I'm not fertile, a yellow light if it's unsure and I'm in a sort of zone where I need to use a condom, or red zone, which is my fertile zone, which is definitely, not to have unprotected sex during that time because I don't want to get pregnant. So it's just fantastic. I'm using it as a standalone way of tracking my fertility. And I can highly recommend it. So now I've tried it, I can release this podcast to you, where Holly is amazing and very generous with her information, and she talks all about Daysy, what it is, how it works, how to use it, what a fertile window is, and what the different colours mean. The customer support options available, which is really, really important, and like the history of the company. They've been going for 30 years, Daysy have. And I'll give you a bit of history as well before we start with Holly. But it's also made in Germany, which I was overwhelmed by because I live in Germany and I know how fantastic their automation is and their manufacturing processes and how precise their engineering systems are. So after hearing that, I felt just so reassured that I could use this and I could rely on it, that I did actually get one. So Holly also talks about how your data's protected and how it compares to maybe manually charting our fertility and much more. So let's have a look. Let me just tell you a little bit about Daysy. So Daysy is based in Europe, and it's primarily female staffed. It's a global company with 30 years of experience in the world of fertility. Valley Electronics, its parent company, first developed their product, the Lady Comp, in the late 1980s. So the Lady Comp is currently the most popular fertility monitor internationally. And Daysy, the company's second product, is the brainchild of Natalie Reckberg. And I hope I said her name right. If you're listening, Natalie, I'm terrible at German, so I please hope that I pronounced your name somewhere near what it is. And so anyway, Daysy makes the original, the trusted technology compatible with the smartphone via the Daysy View app. And that's what I've been using and really looking at my temperature. And so I can see where it goes up and where it goes down and how it's different in the first and second half of my cycle. So I've really enjoyed actually having a physical manifestation, a chart of my cycle. And of course, my partner can sync with it as well with his phone. So when I say to him it's a red day, when I say to him it's a green day, he's got some sort of data and visual. So it's very helpful for him to not just feel like he's, well, for want of a better term, like shooting in the dark and trusting what I say. And of course he trusts what I say, but it's, you know, it's much better for him to actually see it. He's got a handle on it. And it makes it more relaxing for him to know what's going on with my fertility. So anyway, a little bit about the Daysy algorithm, how it works, how this lovely little computer works out if we're fertile or not. So Daysy used an algorithm that's been clinically tested for a proven 99.4% accuracy and a 0.6 Pearl index rating, which is very, very good. So it makes Daysy the only medically certified science-supported fertility monitor on the market. There's a lot of new ones coming on. It's questionable where they're made and their production processes. So I did rather grill Holly actually on how this works and how it's made. And I shall be visiting the Daysy factory and the Daysy team in May. So I'll let you know when that's happening anyway. And I'll put some stories on Instagram because I really think this is the way forward for us. But I think we need to be pretty careful with the products that we're using because some are very, very low cost. And yeah, as I said, I would question some of the manufacturing processes. So I have questioned these manufacturing processes and I said I'll be going to visit them in May. So anyway, Daysy is committed to providing women with intelligent, effective and easy solutions for fertility tracking. And I had a problem syncing my Daysy with my iPad one day. I called their customer service. They were so lovely, sorted it out straight away. It was basically turn the app off, turn it on. It's a kind of scenario. But that made it really easy and it's able to sync again very quickly. And yeah, I feel reassured using it because I definitely don't want to get pregnant. But I do want the freedom to have unprotected sex with my husband when that's a safe time. So yeah, I'll let Holly tell you all about Daysy now, and I'll see you the other side. And welcome back to the podcast, Holly.
Oh, thank you again. I'm glad to chat with you again.
This time we're talking about Daysy, which is a fertility predictor, monitor, indicator. Is that right? Can you describe what it is to me?
It's all of those things, okay. Definitely. Essentially, it's like a little mini computer. So it's a basal body thermometer, which some of your listeners might be very familiar with, but it has a database inside which contains not only the processor so that it can indicate and monitor your fertility, but also the data needed to create the algorithm with which it does predict to a certain extent your fertile window. So it's a combination of all those things so that it can actually give you every day when you wake up, you take your temperature, it gives you your fertility status for that 24 hours as a coloured light. And red means you are fertile and green means you are not fertile.
Okay. And do you have to put any other information in it, like I call it yoni juice, but, is it sticky? I don't like the word mucus at all. Like I sneeze and mucus comes out of my nose. So, I'm like, yoni juice sounds much more lovely to me.
Oh, I know. Mucus isn't pleasant. Fluid is all right, I think, but fluid still doesn't seem quite right.
Fluid's vaguely okay, but it's just yoni juice. Do I have to record my yoni juice texture, basically.
No, not to use Daysy, you don't. So Daysy's just basal body temperature device, which is where the predictive element comes in. So essentially, Daysy has 3 months learning period where you will wake up and take your waking temperature every day. And that data is recorded and stored and tracked. And that data is compared to the database that I mentioned, which is, I think it's 5 million real menstrual cycles, as in not computer-generated ideas of what a menstrual cycle would look like, but actually real women's menstrual cycles from lots of different situations.
Wow.
So whether you've been drinking alcohol or whether you have regular cycles or whether you've been taking antibiotics, etc. Mm-hmm. And so it's between that data compared to the database, which is basically gives you sort of an opportunity for statistically analysing probabilities of your cycle against the cycles of many, many, many women. And then you also, the only other information you give is your actual days you have your period, which you enter on the device itself. So you confirm on the device with a button that you have your period that day. And that starts a cycle. So that allows, because most people would check their cervical fluid because we understand that you don't know if you've ovulated until after your basal body temperature has shifted. Mm-hmm. So the way that Daysy can set your fertile window ahead of time to include the fact that sperm can live for up to 5 days in the female body is by tracking your period start dates and from statistical analysis. So it knows what your earliest point of ovulation is likely to be after the learning period, but it also knows how likely it is for you to ovulate early based on the statistical analysis of the database of other cycles. Right. So that sets it. So when you are in, say, your 4th cycle of using Daysy, you will start getting more green lights, which are the days that you're not fertile to a 99.3% accuracy. But to begin with, you will only get yellow learning lights and red fertile lights. And then as the more you use it, your fertile window will become more and more specific. So at first it will be quite long, and then it will get smaller and smaller and smaller. But if you have a fluctuation, say most women will experience delayed ovulation much, 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 much more frequently than they will ever experience early ovulation. Okay. Then your fertile window will be extended, so you will have more red lights. But for most women who have pretty regular cycles, you're looking at about 9, can be less. There are women who only have 7, but it's usually 8 or 9 red lights per cycle, so that's your fertile window set. Mm-hmm. And then the rest will be green. Or if you have a fluctuation or Daysy is not sure or you miss a temperature or something, then you might get yellow again.
Yeah, okay. And I know I've seen a few people in the group ask this, like, what if you wake up at a different time on different days? Does that matter?
No. So one of the ideas is that you can take your waking temperature at any time that you wake up, which is why a lot of women who do shift work or new mums actually like to use a device instead of doing what I call manual charting. Now, most fertility awareness methods that include basal body temperature will say, I think 3 to 4 hours sleep gets you to the waking point, the waking temperature or the resting temperature point. And some people can do it quicker than that, actually. But that 3 hours is the minimum, and 18 hours between readings. And so that means if you are a new mum and you always get up a certain time to feed your baby, if you go to bed at 9, you could take your temperature at midnight. And then the next day, if you go to bed at later and then you get up and you go back to sleep, you can take your temperature at 6 or 7. Okay. So, yeah, you can change it as long as you get that temperature taken and as long as there's 18 hours between readings. The reason for that really in comparison to manual charting is that it really works on a caution bias. So if it thinks there's an anomalous temperature or if it thinks that the data is something that it's like, well, I'm not quite sure if this is the right kind of data, it will just give you more red lights.
Okay, so it really errs on the side of caution.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which you need, don't you? I mean, that feels good for me.
Yeah, and that should, I mean, it feels good for me too, and it feels good for a lot of people. Obviously, I don't think even with manual charting, you can get less than like 7 or 8 days where you would say that's your fertile window. But yeah, with Daysy, you know that if something anomalous is entered into the device, or the temperature that's taken is like oddly high from your norm or different, there's a lot of things that go on, then it will just flip to yellow or red.
Okay. I've got loads of questions written down here as you're talking. I have to go through them. Daysy a standalone device, or does it link to an app on the iPhone? Or
so Daysy comes from the company that created the Ladycom, which is, some people might be aware, is like a little device with its own screen which shows your chart, your lights, everything on that screen. So this was a pre-smartphone device,
okay,
which has been around for 30 years actually this year.
Pre-smartphone, Holly?
Pre-smartphone.
What are you talking about?
I know. So that glorious time where we didn't have the phones that now we can't give back. And so the Daysy is a development from that, but it's the same internal system, it's the same algorithm, the same database setup, everything. It just, yes, you have a cord that you plug it into your phone and you see all that information in the Daysy View app. It's a free app. It doesn't have a subscription or anything, but you can look at your chart, you can email your chart, you can share your chart with your partner, you can see predictions coming up. So if you want to sort of have some idea of whether you'll be fertile at a certain time the next month, perhaps, you can look at it. There's a few different things you can see. And obviously, if you want to see your chart and see, when your temperature shift was, or if you have an extended cycle, you can look at all that and it's all there for you. And also it's helpful because the company has you can send in your data chart to them and they will come back and say, well, this is what it looks like, what's going on with your chart. So they have cycle analysts who can do that as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, but you don't have to use the app. I mean, I actually don't really. And the nice thing, one of the really nice things about both those devices is that you can keep all your data on the device. You don't have to share it. You don't have to put it on the internet. You don't have to allow even the company to see it, which, is really important, I think, these days, that a lot of apps are, especially the free apps that you might use to track your period right now, are collecting data. And they're collecting data and they're using that data to sell to advertising companies. And that might seem, oh, well, whatever, never mind. But, over time, that can end up being more intrusive than you might expect. Yeah, one of the reasons I was drawn to it in the beginning was because I was like, oh, well, this is actually an option where you can keep your data private if you want to. When you think there are so many apps out there now that don't even just stop at when your period is, they want to know what symptoms you have or when you have sex and things like that. That's very, very valuable information in terms of selling on the market. So, you have to be aware of things like that too, if those are the sort of things that would bother you in other circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for pointing that out, because I have tried a couple of apps actually and thought, why is it asking for so much? Because it's not needed. Mm-hmm. I felt a bit suspicious about that. So, and can I clear a little myth up? Because I saw this, I think it was on Instagram. You take your temperature with Daysy by putting it in your mouth, not anywhere else, right?
You can. Now, this is a funny one because I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with taking your temperature in your vagina. Okay. But with Daysy, you have to choose one or the other. And probably 99.9% of women do take their temperature in their mouth. Right. Just some women, for whatever reason, say they find that their mouth breathing is particularly problematic, although actually it shouldn't be, because Daysy also works on comparing norms to anomalies. So if your norm is mouth breathing, that shouldn't be a problem. But some women just prefer to do that. And I don't like to stigmatize it because I think, so what? That's fine. But also a lot of women are put off the idea of using something like Daysy because they think it has to be used in the vagina, which it does not.
Yeah. So it's just personal preference, basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. You can stick it where you want to.
you can, but mouth is probably the best option.
It's probably the easiest. I'm thinking if I get up in the morning, I don't really want to put something in my yoni every morning. Yeah.
No, I wouldn't either.
Okay. That covers all my questions about it, actually. Where can we get a hold of one of these things?
Well, the nice thing as well is that it's pretty much globally available. So you just go to daysy.me, daysy.me. So the name comes from daily synchronization. That's why it's called Daysy. Mm-hmm. And then it will know where you are in the world. So you can get them in most countries in Europe, the UK, the US, Canada, and they're expanding all the time. So for most part, most women can get a hold of one. And yeah, you just go to daysy.me and then you can find it there. And yeah, and also, if you're interested in the other device, the Lady Comp is Lady Comp. It's kind of slightly harder to find. There's different distributors, but just plug into Google Lady Comp, COMP, and then you will find that too.
Okay. And I looked at the Daysy website, and it has something like a 99.3 success rate.
Yeah, so it has been clinically tested, and they've actually going to come out hopefully early next year with a new trial too. But yes, so it's been tested to be 99.3% accurate in letting you know when your fertile days are. And that's for prevention of pregnancy, or if you're planning pregnancy too. So if you want to know when you need to have sex to get pregnant. And a lot of women use Daysy to prevent pregnancy for a few months or years and then have used it to get pregnant. And it's a tricky one because of the way that the contraceptive industry is set up. Like, you can't say it's a contraceptive device. So there's a lot of sort of language issues around that. But essentially, it's called a Pearl Index, which is how all contraceptions are assessed. So it has a 0.7 Pearl Index, which is comparable to the pill, basically. And I think in comparison to what the non-perfect use of the pill, they have a perfect use and then a use which they sort of would say was like a real life use of the pill. The Daysy accuracy or effectiveness is higher, which I think makes sense because with Daysy, it will just, as I said, give you more yellow or red lights if you do end up missing more than 4 temperature datas a month, or if you take your temperature after a night of drinking a lot and it happens to be anomalously high, then it will just assume that that's something that means it has to be more cautious.
Yeah. Okay. Great. It sounds fab. I'm going to try it.
Yeah, well, as I said, I always sort of explain, when I came off the pill, I was, reading into manual charting, taking charge of your fertility, and I was looking at sort of Katie Singer's A Garden of Fertility and learning about cervical fluid and learning about all of that. And it was really, really helpful information. I think all women should be aware of all their fertility signs: cervical fluid, basal body temperature, cervix position. I think it's such important information for informed consent on so many levels, all reproductive health issues. But I think for some women, it's just not necessarily practical. It's possible, but it's not practical for them to do manual charting for different reasons. And so I think anything to me that simplifies the process, that makes it quick and easy, takes so little time a day, and that gets more women into the position where they feel can come off the pill because this is something I can handle, this is something I can do, that doesn't make me anxious, it doesn't feel like a burden on me, then that to me is the most important thing. My whole aim is that women would feel comfortable to come off hormonal contraceptives when and if they need to, and not feel they have to stay on them longer than they're comfortable or suffer on them unnecessarily. So
yeah. It sounds like a great option, actually, because I fall into that category of I've tried manual cycle charting and I'm into all this stuff and I just don't keep it up. I can't chart that much. I just don't want to do it.
No. And I think that's interesting because, a lot of the conversation is always around the idea of, well, women can do it. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I think most women can do it. It's whether that, and it's like, well, do they want to though? And for me, I'm not a numbers person. I'm not a chart person. I was always in the lowest group for maths. And I did find, Taking Charge of Your Fertility is a great resource, but it's an intimidating book. It's huge.
Yeah.
And And I also, we in the last podcast we were talking about the pill as liberating and the pill as like a feminist victory, and the pill as sort of something that women take to feel empowered and free. And I think it's really important that women feel free and anxiety free and empowered by whatever it is they do. And for some women, feeling like they have to manually chart and they are responsible for doing the calculations, they are responsible for understanding day to day whether they're fertile, they're responsible for all of that, and often it is them alone, it's not them and their partner, then that's not something that they are ready to take on, or it causes them anxiety. And I can understand that. So, why should they feel that they have to do that? And some women don't want to have to do that. Some women would rather have a device so they can say to their partner, it's green or it's red. Yeah,
I think that's going to work a lot better for me, really, because I don't know, I'm busy and of course it's important, but I don't want anything else to fill in. I think that's what it is. I think that's what it is.
I was the same. And, I think it's really important to know that information, that you can do that and know what that information means.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's necessary to do it manually if you don't want to. I don't think it means anything. I don't think it has any particular value beyond the importance of having that knowledge about your body.
Yeah, I don't feel less connected to my cycle or anything. I monitor my yoni juice. It naturally happens. If I'm walking around in my pajamas in the morning, I really do know that I'm ovulating.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Oh, that's very moist around there. Okay, I'm ovulating. I know, when my partner comes home and he is very close to me and brushes past me, and it wasn't like that a couple of days ago, I can feel it, I'm ovulating. But
definitely.
There are definitely more markers with our intuition, I think, that I use, that I've got used to over the last few years. But I'm going to give Daysy a go because I like the measurement of it, and the fact that I don't have to do anything else apart from take my temperature for, do you leave the thermometer in for a minute? Or?
Well, it's up to a minute. We actually just wrote something about this. Basically, unlike a lot of other thermometer sensors, it doesn't average out the temperatures that it's taking during that time. It waits till it comes to a stable point. So it can take between like 30 and 60 seconds. It's slightly longer than other devices because it isn't averaging.
Okay, that sounds like it's more accurate then.
Yes, it is. It's meant to be. Yes, that's the idea, is that you're not saying, well, your temperature is probably this. You're saying the temperature is stabilised at this point. That is what it is.
That feels great, because I don't want probably, if I'm going to say to my partner, everything's all right, bring it on.
Yeah.
I don't want
no, you'd
probably.
be surprised how much like that, even different devices will use certain types of shortcuts in order to get things that they think women want, like a really quick taking of your temperature. But actually, if it's doing it really, really quickly, it tends to mean that it's just kind of going, well, from this and this and this and this, it's probably going to be this. So we'll put that down.
Shit, and that's my life. That's my life. I don't want an average.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the thing. And a lot of it's a new frontier. When I wrote my book, there wasn't that much out there, and every month now I think there's a new device, a new piece of technology, and it's definitely a new frontier. And obviously, with so little awareness of fertility tracking as a methodology in the medical field, and with the power of the pharmaceutical companies, it's one that's like, you do really need to, I think, find a company that you can trust. And, obviously I'm an ambassador for this product, but, they have been around for 30 years, which I think makes a big difference.
Yeah. Do you think because it is becoming popular, women are sort of taking back their power around fertility? Do you think there'll be some backlash from the pharmaceutical industry on sort of bad press around devices like this?
I think there probably already has been, and I think it will get worse. I think it's tricky because some of the new devices that are coming out are making big promises that they really can't keep. And, they're people who are newer to creating fertility tech. And, like with any startup situation, that can mean that they're making things fast, they're making them cheap, and they're not really putting a lot of time into it. Like Lady Comps and Daisies are all made in Germany. They're not making the parts in a developing country for pennies.
Okay, well, I live in Germany, and they do not cut any corners with production. And if it was to be made, actually, I feel so relieved that it's made in Germany, because I know people. I mean, I'm based in a place where Audi is and Continental.
Yes.
And I know some of the engineers here, and they're just like, I would trust them to make anything for me. I really would. They're so precise. Actually, when you said it's made in Germany, my heart just burst open.
Yeah,
and I
think it's important on that level, like, because of the trust, I think, and because also that the standards there. Like, unfortunately, when they ship any part of the process out to a developing country where it isn't overseen by the people in the company, where it's done with the cheapest level, like, not only is there a concern about the trust of the device, but also these people aren't, like, they're not treated terribly well. I want to work for a company that treats everybody that they employ well, and I think that was also really important to me. And, we have so much cheap tech put on the market these days, and that's happening with fertility tech too. So, there is that issue. And like you said, that I think there will be a certain backlash, but I also worry from my point of view that some companies just won't cut it, and their failures will reflect badly on everybody else, unfortunately.
I get what you're saying. Okay, so if someone's listening, they are thinking, well, okay, Daysy looks a bit expensive on the first look. I'm going to have a shop around. What would be the sort of things, maybe like two or three markers to look for a good one if they're going to have a shop around? Oh,
well, I think looking around at what's available right now, I mean, unless you're going to go for something that supports manual charting like Kindara, if you want to do it yourself, essentially, and then just use an app to help you, support that rather than getting your fertility status calculated for you. You are doing those calculations. It's quite tricky to say, because it's, the issue for me is, like, not only is it about the devices, it's also about the support that you get with them. So, with Daysy and AGComp, they do give you basically a lifetime of customer support, and that is by email, phone, Facebook private group, Messenger, everything. One thing I'm seeing with other devices is that women are having issues and they're not getting the support. And if you're telling people, well, you can use this instead of being on the pill, I'm sorry, but you have to help them.
Yes.
You can't just let them use it and let them go. So that's the other concern. I actually would say, if you're not just manually charting, or if you are not like going the copper IUD route or the condom route and just want to know more about your cycle and using something like Clue, which is also German, then I wouldn't want to say, really, because it's a wild west right now. Like, it really is. And it's all going to, it's exploding at the moment. We're getting all this information out there now about things like what they're calling sex tech and femtech. But the fertility tech world has been mostly operated by the companies that are helping women get pregnant, which is weirdly a whole other thing, because people think the stakes are lower when you're helping women get pregnant, which I think is really bizarre, because if you really want to get pregnant, you really want to get pregnant. Yeah. Like, I don't see why you should think that those women don't deserve as accuracy as high as anything else. But it's sort of been left to its own devices, excuse the pun, because of that, the idea that it's a luxury to have additional help to get pregnant. And so they haven't really been looked at very seriously. But now, obviously, we're seeing more and more women realizing, oh, well, I want to do things that are, I want to have fertility awareness. I don't want to use synthetic hormones to prevent pregnancy. And so, obviously, we are more aware of that being high stakes. And so there's more scrutiny on it.
Wow. I'm actually just excited that it's made in Germany. I feel very, very reassured by that.
I think a lot of people do, and it makes sense to me. I mean, it's I just think it's a whole package of reasons that, as I said before, that is about, like, basically the ethics of a company too, and what's important to them, because a lot of companies would be spending the money on marketing and making the product very, very cheaply, which, you know, is how startups tend to work. But you know, with this company, they actually spend a lot of money on the product. They don't have a lot of marketing dollars. So
yeah, okay. I didn't realise it was manufactured in Germany, because I looked at to contact you and to contact I looked at their website and I saw they got a base in Germany, which actually, funnily enough, is only about an hour away from me.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
So I'll chat to you after about this, but I'm going to see if I can go. Maybe I can do a little tour of their factory, a little Instagram or something.
You should definitely. Natalie would love that.
Yeah?
She'd really love that. Yeah.
I'd love to meet them, because I think this is a genuinely empowering for women, and especially for like busy women, or women that just, you know, like you said, don't want to go back to this manual chart and it works and it doesn't take an average. Like, I'm sold. I'm going to the factory. Basically.
You should know Natalie would love that. She would really love that. She'd love to make the connection, and she'd I think their offices are like absolutely, from what I've seen, beautiful surroundings. So
they're near the Alps, I think. So any excuse for me to go near the Alps is fine.
You definitely should. I'll definitely help you with that.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you so much for all that information. If someone's interested, they go to daysy.me. Is that right?
That's right, daysy.me. Yeah, daysy.me, and then you'll get taken to your location.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Holly. It's been amazing.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for having me talk about all these things.
It's been a pleasure. Okay. And I will let people know when your documentary is out, and any links we've mentioned, like the one to Daisy or the one to Holly's book, will be in the show notes. So nice and easy.
Great. Thank you.
All right then, Holly. See you soon.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, fantastic information from Holly there, and hopefully enough to give you a really good base for making a decision as to whether this is right for you. If you do decide it's right for you, I can give you a link that gets you a discount for a Daisy. So if you want that, you can either email me at melanie@thesacredwomb.com and I'll send it back to you. Or if you go to thesacredwomb.com/Daysy, DAYSY, and you scroll down the show notes, there's a little box you can fill in with your name and email address, and I'll send you over that discount code as well. So yeah, pretty much a win-win situation I think we've got here. Fantastic device, nice and reliable. And yeah, the Instagram stories will be full of Daisy at about the 26th of May when I go visit them. So I'll keep you in the loop with that when that's happening. So yeah, I wish you a great day. I've got more podcasts lined up. One's coming up about coping with your children during moon time and premenstrual. So I'll be talking about strategies to work with your kids, really, so that they feel safe and secure and you get your me time. And Bethany Webster is coming on the podcast again. We're talking about self-sabotage. And I'm also interviewing Bonnie about her book, Red Moon Passage. So that's coming up next. And so we're talking about menopause and how we can rename it and how we can really reclaim it as a time of power and a rite of passage into our truth. So yeah, there we go. I hope to see you in the group very soon. And thanks again for your listenership, and I'll see you soon. I really hope you enjoyed the podcast and that you got some useful tips out of it that can make a genuine difference in your daily life. And if you'd love to work deeper with this stuff, then do head on over to thesacredwomb.com, where you can sign up to receive the weekly newsletter and an invite to our private Facebook group, where you can share, learn and grow with like-minded women in a safe, supported space. Thank you so much for tuning in. Do leave us a rating, and your comments are very, very welcome. And I'll see you next time.